Okay, as a part of refactoring, I would like to mention that we are using this API URL in our categories. So in this category service, we hard-coded the API URL, which is, in my opinion, is something like quite wrong, because we are repeating always the same URL. So we have here localhost 3000 API version 1 again. So we just need to save them somewhere in one variable, and also this variable can be used in another service because we are using here one backend. We are not using multiple backends. So it's easy for us to save it in some variable like a public variable and use it in our services. So in Angular in general, we are using always environment variables. And those environment variables, you see them located in the application itself. So we have here environment variables which are located in the admin application. But we need somehow to share also those environment variables among all applications. So for example, I would say here that I want this environment variable and I store here the API URL, which will come with localhost 3000 as a port, etc. And also for the production, I am going to change this to be as well for the production server. So in this case, we will have one for the production, which will be some real domain, and also the other one will be for local development. So for that, I advise you to cancel the environment variable which are located inside the application. So first of all, we need to configure the Angular JSON file. So first, we need to go to Angular JSON and specify to which environment variable we have to use. So as you see here in ngshop application, we have apps, ngshop, source, environments, and then environment ts. But we can replace it as well with something public. So I advise you first to create a folder on the root of the application. So for example, not in the application itself, but in the root of the workspace itself. So I say here that, okay, I have here make dir and make this dir called, and then we are creating this directory. And this directory will be on the root, on the top root. So we have it here. And then we will copy our files, which are environment ts and environment production ts. I will show you later how we can import variables from those environment variables. So here we have to create two files. First file is environment ts. So I have here environment.ts and another one which is environment.prod.ts. So we have one from production and one for environment itself. And the content of those files, let's see them. So you can see them in the application itself. So one of them has production true and the other has production false. And as I showed you, we can add our variable here. So let's copy this part here and put it in our environment ts, the public one, and also the content of the prod one, and place it in the public one. So then we have these two files created. We just need to delete it from the application level. So we don't need this folder anymore. So let's delete it to not be confused. And we are going now to use the public one. So we have here the public one, which is shared and on the root level. So it's not related to any application now. We go to Angular JSON URL or Angular JSON file. And in this file, as you remember, we are defining the projects in our workspace. For example, we have ngshop and we have ngshop end-to-end tests and also the admin application, admin end-to-end test, and also the libraries. So for me, I would go here to the admin and then I will say that don't use for example, the environments which are in the application level, no, but use the one which are on the root. So we have here two files, we are going to use them and they are located on the root. So we save that. Remember that after this we need to restart the application, we need to restart the server. So in this case I go here and then I define an API URL which is fixed always, and we can copy it from our service. So here we can copy all of this, and we can keep this dynamic. So for every service, like I have here products, I will have order, I have users, so we can keep these dynamic. So I go to the environment. For local development, we can use this one, and for production you can use also the same, but it will be like something on server, for example on Heroku, as we will see later. So we will not have a local host here, but for now let's keep it as local host. Production is same as development, but later we will change this, so remember that. Okay, now I am in category service. I want to replace this one with this variable which we are seeing here. So I want to replace everything with this API or this string. So first of all, we need to import something. How we can import it? So of course you can import it in a way. You can say, for example, I want the environment because we are going to import all the object, which this one because it has export, and I am going to import it from. Then you need to define a path, and this path come from where? You need to go again to the root of the application, and look how it's long. So I need to go totally to the root, and then okay, I see the environment. But TypeScript providing us a shortcuts, so you can create a shortcut like how it's done here. So you can have a shortcut, and then you can import your variables. So where we can change that? It's very simple. You can change it in the tsconfig file base. So on the base, on the root totally, as you remember, we are creating automatically, for example, a shortcuts exactly when you are creating those libraries. So here we create, for example, a new path, which is a shortcut to environment variable. So I will go here and say, for example, add env, and then I will specify the path which I want to the environment. So I will say environment, and then environments folder, and then the environment file or the environment file which I want to specify. But here we have two files. We have production and the normal for development. So we can specify a star, like everything inside this environment folder. And also for that we need to specify as well that when I specify here a star, then replace this star with the star which I have here. So in this case, everything will be exactly the same path which I specified in the import. To explain that, I am going now to import the environment variable in the category service. So let's save this one. As you remember, we have to restart our application, but first let's go here and we will say that import. I would like to import a variable, and this variable which is in the environment variables, so which is called environment. So I will import this one, but from where? At env / I need to specify so what I want to import. I say that environment at environment. So in this case, I will import the environment variable from the environment which is coming and specified by one of those files. So we save that, and then we go back to our terminal. We will see that we have another error that cannot resolve environment in admin src, and this will be in the main ts. So we need to go as well to main ts file and say that I need to replace the environment not from the application level but from the root. So I will go here and replace the things which are in the root. So now everything is working fine. I need now to use the variables which are specified in environment. So I will define here a variable. We can call it a constant, and this constant can be called API URL categories, for example, and this will have environment.api URL plus what? Categories. We need to specify also categories. So we don't need only the API URL like this. We need as well to have, for example, a suffix which is called categories. So I need the categories as well to be in the URL. Then I will have this complete link. So we can have that like this, so we don't have any const here because it's a class variable. So we can replace this one with this dot the variable which I created here. Also for this we need to replace this variable, so we say not the string, but it will be a variable, this dot the variable itself. So we can have all for our all API the same API URL which is specified here, and when I deploy to production server it will be replaced by the prod, so I don't need to handle manually these links and for example these APIs. And of course you don't have to specify only API URL, you can specify any variable you want to use in your application which will be different in the production server. So the goal of those environment variables are just to differentiate between the local development and the production environment for our application. So we continue here, so we replace everything. So I replace also this one, we don't need that, so we can place this variable as well. And also we have here one, so we can use the backticks, so we can have here a backticks. So I need first my variable and then slash, and then I say another variable which will be category.id, and here we have update request, and here a comma to not forget it, and as well the same thing here, we need to replace as well our variable API URL categories. So after that we save everything. Let's test the things. So first we got an error, we cannot resolve environment in this because we need to restart our server. As I told you, whenever you change for example a tsconfig file or Angular JSON, you need to restart your server. Let's restart it, and then again after restarting it, then those paths will be recognizable. Okay, now the server is successfully completed and we are now it's recognizing now the environment from this path or from this shortcut which is defined in tsconfig base. tsconfig, briefly, it's TypeScript configuration file. So it's configuring like the paths, the import. You can define a lot of rules, for example import helpers, targets, what is compiler is used, and also some base URL which will be some configuration you need to look in TypeScript configuration because it's not our subject in this course. But when you want to create a shortcut for anything, you can create shortcut for library, for example, as we saw here, and also a shortcut for your environment variables. So in this way, we can use those environment variables in all application because we will have, I think, the same environment variable for all application. Unless you have a different environment variable for your API or for your application, then you just need to replace them here. So for example, ngshop, you don't need to have or to use the public one, so you can use application specific one. So everything is going in the Angular JSON file. The configuration for your application is running in Angular JSON file. So now from now on we are going to use the environment API URL for our services like products, orders, users, etc. So we don't need to hard code any URL anymore. And I repeat, this URL is the backend URL, the backend of API which we saw in the backend, which is for a Postman. You remember we are using that in the Postman to retrieve data from the server or from the database, and then you can replace it in the future with the production, or if you, for example, you want to change the port of the backend, you just need simply to replace this text here and it will be applied on whole your application. Okay, regarding refactoring, I mentioned that we are going to do also some refactoring. If you remember, we have defined here a categories, and pages, and then shared. I think also categories can be inside pages. So we will have pages, dashboard, and also products, and also users, something like the same of this alignment for this navigation here. So we can have the same. So we just need to move this categories folder inside the pages. So with drag and drop, you can specify pages and then it will be moved inside. But remember, in the application module, you need to re-import again the stuff. So you can have, for example, here error, as you see, it's appeared immediately. You just need to add pages. So I want to go inside pages and then to categories, and then I can import the module or the component which I want. So this is the only single thing we have to replace, and we will see that our application is working perfectly. So let's, for example, try to delete one of the API. Okay, category is deleted. Let's update this one. So we can update, for example, the color. We can put this green, for example, update. So it will go back automatically. Nice, it's updated. So we don't have any issue anymore. We can also create a new category. And also, as a homework for you, I forgot in this lecture to implement the cancel button. So I want you, when we click on the cancel button, to go back to the home page or to categories itself, where categories list. We have implemented that previously when we use the timer. So after I do some timing, I use this location.back. So I click on the cancel button, I want you as well to go back to the previous page. So this is as an assignment for you. You can do it alone, and of course I will attach it as well with the code which is attached in the next lecture for all what we did till now.